Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Apron podcast. I am Cassie.
I'm Manny.
And today we are joined by our little one, Eddie, baby Eddie. He is a little crazy right now. So he's awake. We couldn't put him down for a nap. So if you hear him giggling in the background, don't mind him. He's a very happy baby. And yeah, we're happy to have him on today's episode. So, babe, I know as we just finished Valentine's Day, and the next big holiday is going to be Mother's Day, but we have quite a few months until then. One thing that is actually coming up, I think in a few days, is going to be Team Member Appreciation. Do you remember what we did for Team Member Appreciation back in 2021?
Well, you guys did a lot. You set up like a whole little photo booth with like little signs and stuff for people to grab. I think you got everyone like pins and stuff.
Yeah.
For the team.
So me and another one of the veteran hosts, and she actually kind of like went all out. Her and I made a whole like backdrop by the indoor, and we had so much fun. She ordered pins for everybody that said team. And one of the best things and best parts about that is that team members who had literally just started with us, like the week before, all got a pin. And I think that's something that I personally loved to do as a manager. And baby Eddie agrees. That kind of leads us into today's episode a little bit, because we're going to be talking about bad management. Manny and I, in conversation before we started the podcast, Manny has a different perspective when it comes to this. I think I see it from a manager's point of view. And for this reason, I don't know if it's like I take it more personal, but I've always heard that team members or people quit managers and they don't quit jobs. And I think that because of this reason, like the reason I take it so personally and the reason I like go above and beyond for my team, also maybe because I've been a team member, and when I've been promoted from within, you see things in a different light. You want to make, your team members, you want to give them what you didn't get, in essence. So kind of like parenting, you want to make sure that your kids have what you didn't have. I think in that sense, I look at management in that sense or in that lens, because I want to give my team members better than what I got. I want to appreciate them better than my previous managers appreciated me. Not saying that they didn't, but I want to, go above and beyond, and I want to be that person. And I never want to be a reason why somebody does not ever feel appreciated, because unfortunately, I know people who have been in that position, or I have been in that position where I don't feel appreciated, or I just feel used by, my company. And I don't ever want to be someone's reason why they feel, less than. And I think maybe that's why I take it so personally.
Yeah. My point is like the manager makes the employee's day easier or harder. So yes, having a good manager obviously makes everyone's lives a lot easier and a lot smoother, and that makes the shift a lot smoother than having an annoying or like hard or quote unquote bad manager on the shift.
Maybe that's why I don't necessarily agree with managers being the number one reason why a company fails, like in its entirety. I think that team members definitely do play a part, trends and just other things, external things that take factors into that. But I do, in that same breath and in that same sentence, I do think that managers have a big role and play a big part as to why team members leave a restaurant. That being said, the best person that I think that can judge my character on whether or not I was a good manager would probably be you. So spill it. I want to know.
You weren't fine. You weren't a bad manager. You were a hard manager to work with, but you were not a bad man.
Okay, but why do you say I was a hard manager to work with?
Because in my opinion, I don't need a manager who has a short temper.
Okay, no. We talked about this in the very first episode. So like, for example, were you there that day that I lost my absolute fucking mind on? It takes a lot for me to get to that point. And I think my trigger is men know exactly what to do and what to say to get you to react. It goes, I think, outside of just a restaurant or like the workplace. I think it goes into like when a man gaslights you. That's what I think that triggers me, because I fall into that trap and then I lose my fucking mind. And then another thing I think what gets me is that when I lose my mind is because they, like I said, again, they see a pretty face or they see a girl and they're like, okay, like she can fucking kick rocks. No, if I'm telling you to come into the office, you're gonna come into the office.
But even then, even if you did lose your temper, that's again not a reflection of you as a manager. Is more of the staff being stupid, which is why I believe that a bad manager does not make or break a business or influence turnover whatsoever in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, that's fair. Now, we already established that I was not a bad manager for all our listeners, but have you ever had a bad manager? Have you ever worked with a bad manager?
Okay, and okay, what do you mean by like they're bad managers?
That's what I was gonna
Like
say.
they don't know what they're doing, like, or they're just like they have shit attitudes all the time. Like, is it a collective of everything? Like they just don't know what they're doing. They're also always mad because, like, I mean, to give an example, was, in my opinion, not a good manager because I don't know how old he was, but he was just very moody. Like, and everyone felt the same way. Like, it wasn't just a me thing. Everyone felt this way. Like, if he got in a mood or in a bad mood, you knew the next 2 to 3 hours or the rest of the shift was gonna be shit because he's gonna be a pain in the ass. He's gonna be on you for every little thing, and it was just not a fun experience.
You can definitely tell when a manager is having like a rough day, like in their personal life or outside of work, because a lot of the time they don't leave that shit at the door. And as much as, we're all human and I'm always going to be the first one to say like, we all have issues and we deal with shit. There comes a point where you're supposed to like do your best to leave that shit, outside, like outside of the four walls. You want to make sure that you have like a good energy and a good tone, like for the shift, because then you're going to ruin everyone else's mood. Who's going to want to come in and make money on a weekend if their manager is like in a completely shitty mood? It kind of reminds me of Michael Scott in The Office. We just finished rewatching it for the second time. And Michael Scott, I think, is a perfect example for a great manager. He's a great leader. He does some questionable things, but for the most part, he is really well at leaving. He does really good and he does really well at leaving all his personal shit like outside, like at the door, as far as negative stuff. Because some personal things he does bring into like the building, but it's always lighthearted and it's always like fun. Like he can laugh at himself. But when it comes to like a more serious note, he tends to leave things at the door.
If we want to break down the character, Michael Scott was not a efficient man. He was a fun, friendly manager, but then throughout the show, you would see glimpses of why he was picked as manager because there'd be instances where he would like do something good for the company or like make like a right judgment call and like things turn out like great or good in the end. So it's like, to put it that way, you know.
I would actually even argue that Michael Scott's a great leader because he basically, built this team up and they were able to perform on their own and he didn't have to micromanage them. I think that that says a lot as a leader when you can build up and guide your team and truly lead them to a position or a point where they can perform and bring in results without you technically having to be there. Because when he left, and spoiler alert for people who have not watched The Office, but when he ended up leaving and Andy took over and Andy was gone for 3 months, Andy, I don't think was there significantly enough time or long enough. I don't think Andy was there long enough for him to actually truly build a team or like coach them in any like monumental way that they ended up, surviving and excelling on their own. And they basically ran that branch without, a leader. And I think that that says a lot of how Michael Scott left them and the type of shape that he left them in. I think that, Michael Scott cracked the code when it came to being a great leader. And I think that he had the secret ingredient all along because there's a, very monumental quote that he says at the beginning of the series when they asked him, would you rather be feared or loved? And he said, easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. And I think that is truly beautiful. And I think looking back, I think that that's something that, as a manager, I would love to I would love my team to love me, but also fear me. And it's the best of both worlds. I think he truly cracked the code.
Like, yes, Michael did crack the code, I guess, and the fact that like he was both a great leader and a great manager, and very few people like can do that. because, like you said, like when he left, spoiler alert, when he left, like everyone knew like that office could run on its own, like without a manager. And like the fact that he was there for so long and had, I know, Eddie, and the fact that he had like zero turnovers, like everyone did stay, regardless whether some people may have like tried to quit, but at the end, again, to prove to Michael's like being a good leader and a good manager, to continue on to that, and to contrast to like, yes, I know, Eddie, Andy was not a good manager or leader because, like you said, he was gone for 3 months, and literally, like when he came back, and they were like, "Oh yeah, here are your bonuses because we did so well while you were gone." I think he had like 2, 3 bonus checks because he was gone for like those 3 months. The store, like I was gonna say store because I'm thinking of a restaurant. The office literally ran on its own. Like it ran so smoothly that when David Wallace, like the boss, came back, he didn't even know that he was gone because like there were no issues with the office. There were no issues with like production or like the income or like how the branch was performing while he was basically gone for 3 months.
But do you see my point when I say that Michael was a great leader because of the fact that Andy wasn't there long enough to truly make like that much of an impact, if at all any. And I think that the 7 or 8 years that Michael was there as their manager, probably longer, because he was obviously the manager there before like the show quote unquote started. But I think that he did such a great job at like building his team and having them independently like run themselves in their departments, that you kind of even question like, why is he even there, like, to begin with? Like truly, like what does he do all day as a manager, like apart from maybe answering a phone call from like corporate or every now and then just kind of being a menace to the office? Like that, those were his flaws, but also I think his strengths, because I feel like the restaurant, I feel like the office ran itself even with him being within those 4 walls or him being there. I think that truly speaks to a manager's qualities, because I don't think, do you think he had a toxic work environment?
Sometimes he did.
You think so?
Yeah, there'd be times where he wouldn't like, I mean, towards certain people, like he had a toxic workplace towards Toby. He had a toxic workplace, I mean, kind of towards like Pam when he was like dating
Her mom.
her mom. Like that was very inconvenient for her, like very personal to her. And I mean, yeah, I think that's about it. So in general, no. There were instances, but in general, I guess no.
Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of the stuff that would come out of Michael Scott's mouth in and of itself would be considered like toxic and could probably be him creating a hostile work environment. Like all the, that's what she said, and just inappropriate things. Like, could you imagine if I were to say the things that Michael Scott said back then to his team and to his like coworkers and to his employees? It's not even like coworker to coworker. It's like you're above them and you hold a position of like leadership. And imagine if you were to say that, you would literally not find a job anywhere on top of getting canceled.
I mean, yeah, the stuff he would say was definitely weird. That's why I said that he was like, he's a good manager, just not like, he's like a good balance, but he's clearly not like, I don't want to say right in the head, but he doesn't have any boundaries when it comes to boundaries or filters, I guess you could say, because yeah, there's a lot of things that he did and said that caused HR to constantly be like talking to him and corporate having to get involved and telling him to calm down and stop doing all these like dumb, stupid things. And yeah, that would definitely get you fired in today's day and age in a heartbeat.
So enough about The Office. I kind of want to take it back to what we were talking about right before that, about how your manager would come in with a negative attitude and how that would affect, an entire shift. I think that some people don't understand the severity of how damaging a negative attitude can be in the hospitality or customer service industry. As a manager in the industry, you're dealing with people who work with people. And when you come in with a negative energy or a negative attitude or just like in poor spirits, it's definitely going to bleed into your team members and unfortunately into your guests. If you come in and you have to, like, if a situation arises and you have to speak to a guest and they are unhappy, if you come in defensive or in a bad mood with an RBF, then they're definitely going to mirror that energy. And unfortunately, it's going to be a losing battle for everyone. Your server suffers, your brand and your restaurant will suffer because I guarantee you they will blast the hell out of you anywhere and any chance that they can.
I mean, that hasn't happened to me personally, but yes, I can definitely understand and see that happening because I have worked with plenty of managers who I have seen be in a visibly bad mood, and they're obviously not in the mood to like talk to any guests or help any guests, which I mean, it's kind of dumb because this is the industry you're in. You're in the industry to deal with people, so if you know you can't handle like having a bad day or you can't keep your personal life out of your work, then this is just not the industry for you to be working in because at the end of the day, it's like you said, like the last thing you need is a manager coming in like hostile or like already defensive against an already defensive and like agitated like guest and then make the situation worse because I mean it does happen where and I mean to give benefit of the doubt, sometimes guests do tend to be like assholes and just want shit for free and are just there to make people's lives like annoying, but even then at that point that's when like you need to have a level head to make a decision of like, okay, am I gonna actually like deal with this person or am I just gonna like do what's right? And and that's up to the manager to decide at the end of the day. So if they're in a bad mood, then that can go either very bad or very good very quickly.
And that's the thing. You made a very good point. You're getting paid very well as a manager to be level headed and at the end of the day is like speak to guests. I could not imagine going up to a guest and mirroring like any poor attitude that I had, regardless of the fact, like it could be my personal life, the kitchen in the back could be on fire, literally crashing and burning. It's my job. I'm there to like make a guest's experience excellent and basically treat them like family. I think that's one thing that truly honestly helped me now that I think about it is that regardless of the fact if this guest is upset or if I'm in a like piss poor mood, I have to remember that these guests are like in my mind personally, like this is, I'm speaking for myself. These guests, my end goal is to treat them like family. I'm going to treat them the same way I would treat my parents, my family members, like people that I truly love and appreciate and respect because at the end of the day, these are your guests. Like these are the people that are going to come back eventually to keep your business running. So I truly cannot imagine like one thing is me coming in with a bad mood and then kind of shaking it off or letting it go like fairly quickly. And then another thing is having the energy to keep up that piss poor mood for the entire day and then letting it affect my guests could never be me because then you run the risk of creating a hostile work environment. That being said, I will always have my team members' backs. If there is ever a guest who thinks that they can come in and cause a scene and think that they're gonna like get like the princess treatment just because they think that the guest is always right, they've got another thing coming, let me tell you.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, not a lot of managers will do that. I've had managers that instead of them like sticking up for you, they'll like agree with the customer and like say that yeah, no, that they messed up and just proceed to like comp their whole meal or like give the guests whatever they want. And it's like you're just sitting there like looking like an idiot at the end of the day because like you have no one to stand up for you. I've had that happen to me where like the guest just didn't, like my manager just didn't help me. They just kind of folded and like bent over and just gave the guests whatever they want. And I just sat there like basically losing my time because they ended up comping the bill and I didn't make any money off of that table. And I was like, okay, well, I just lost like 30 minutes of my life.
And we'll obviously go into Karens and all that stuff on a future episode with some of our friends. But for all the Karens out there, we are coming for you. So this is your warning. If you've ever been a Karen, count your days. Count your days because they are so numbered. I feel like I have to let this be known because a lot of the times these are repeat guests. They think they know and that they think that they're slick and they think that they can get away with everything. And I put a quick abso-fucking-lutely not like line on that shit. You will not get your fucking way if you're being a fucking terrorist in my restaurant. Absolutely not. You can take your money and go elsewhere. I will say it respectfully with a smile on my face because I'm going to always kill you with kindness. But if I'm doing everything that I humanly possibly can do to help you and you're still not happy, at that point, there's clearly nothing that I can do that will make the situation better and will make you happy. Guests where I've had to tell, like, you know what? You're causing a scene in my restaurant. I'm going to ask you to like leave. I'm not going to let you and allow you to cause a scene. Like I literally had a guest one time turn around and like try to blast me to all the guests in line. And I was like, ma'am, like I've already helped you. You can go wait for your food like at the pickup line. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, no, these are people that are going to try and get their way every single time. And the craziest part is that she knew what she was in the wrong. And she knew that she was in the wrong. And instead of like folding and just saying, you know what, like, I'm so sorry, ma'am, like I misread this or whatever, she turned around and tried to make a scene. And the lady next to her, who like the guest next to her at the cashier next to her, like literally said, well, then go home and like go home and eat. If you're going to cause a scene, like, then stay home and cook. Like, and it's like, man, like those are the true people in this world that like get it. And so if you're one of those guests that stick up for the food service industry staff against Karens, then you are a true, like, real one. But enough of our crazy stories and The Office. I kind of want to redirect it to tie it with the entire topic of today and kind of just wrap up our episode. Manny, what are some characteristics of a manager that you personally have worked with that you consider to be like bad characteristics?
Bad qualities that I've seen in managers that I've worked with is, I feel like my number one is a lack of boundary. I feel like some managers don't understand that once you step into the manager world, it's like you're stepping through a threshold. Like when you step into a manager, like you're in a completely different realm of professionalism that like you need to let go of like basically your old ways. And like if two team members don't like each other for whatever reason, my GM should not be talking about something that happened involving another team member. And in my head, I'm like, don't you have better things to do than talk about these things? So that to me is my number one, like, top of the line, like, red flag in a general manager. If they have a lack of boundaries, to me, one, I don't feel like I respect them, and two, I don't think they're a very good, efficient manager.
I get that, and that's completely fair. But I guess when it comes to me, because I guess I pride myself in being very welcoming and being very like team oriented, nothing will irk me the fuck out of me more than somebody who's unprofessional or somebody that's not like welcoming. You know, unfortunately, I can speak from experience where I've been put in a position where at the beginning I thought I was being welcomed into a place, and this was like, you know, in a leadership position. And sooner rather than later, I kind of found out that there was this one person that I feel like personally had it out for me. Fortunately for me, I've dealt with so many different types of people across my 11 years in the industry that I kind of know how to deal with these types of characters and these types of, you know, styles of management and stuff like that, that I kind of just let it roll off my back. But unfortunately, sometimes in the team member's point of view, you may not know always how to deal with, you know, managers that have such a strong character, or dare I say it, like bipolar character, when one day they're kind of like normal and the next day they're not. Unfortunately, you know, there's not much that you can do other than just take it day by day, because you never know which kind of person you're going to get. And as shitty as it is, sometimes these people will never change, unfortunately. All right, Manny, you ready to wrap it up for us?
I feel like we focus a lot on the negative, so let's end on a positive note, which is what are good qualities of managers that we have seen in our years of experience.
I feel like even though we've shared a lot of, like you said, negative stuff, I feel that we may not have experienced as much as we have shared. I think that we both collectively have had great managers over the years and great experiences and have had great management teams. I feel like the reason that we talk more about bad managers or can relate to them more is because I feel that we all have a bad story or two to share and to reflect and to relate on. And great managers, it's going to be like great feedback. A lot of the times you're not going to hear great feedback. You're not going to hear great reviews. If somebody calls the restaurant or calls to complain, chances are it's going to be to complain and to bitch about a bad experience. So today's episode will probably be one of the last ones that we do for a while as far as bad management. Babe, do you have anything else? Did anything crazy happen to you at work these past couple of days or at shifts at Chipotle? Tell me.
I mean, it's not crazy, but it's just like when you see it happen, you're just like, fuck.
What?
So at Chipotle, when we make the pico, we make it fresh and we put it in a hotel pan. And there was this one guy that they called in because somebody else that called out, and like he's trying to help. I don't know what the fuck happened. We were in the walk-in, and I'm trying to hand him like the pans to put on the shelf, and like first off, actually so as we're putting them away, he drops like half of them. And I was like, fine, whatever. It was half of one. It's cool, whatever. At least he saved half. Alright, cool, whatever. And we go to the walk-in, and I'm trying to hand it to him to put him away. And I don't know what the hell happened. All I hear him say is like, oh shit, my knee. And then next thing I know, there's a whole pan of it on the floor, and I'm like, okay. At that point, I was like, how about I put him up and you go do something? Because I don't we just did this and I don't want to have to make more. Do that. And that's not even the worst. Another one happened months ago where it was a morning shift, obviously prep, 6 a.m. And I have never seen, as one of my good buddies who's like the kitchen lead, and I've never seen him like this irritated. We were shredding the cheese and we're putting him away. And I'm waiting for him to come back. And I'm like, damn, bro, like they're really taking a long time in the walk-in. I'm like, let me see what's going on.
No.
I opened the walk-in door and I just see my buddy, the kitchen lead, standing over the crew member, and there's just a pile of cheese on the floor. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let you handle that. And I just closed the door and I just kept cleaning. I was like, I'm not dealing with that. I don't get paid for that.
Absolutely not. I would have looked at my team member and I would have been like, clock out.
Well, we can't afford to do that because no one picks up at 6 a.m. to go to work.
God, no.
You gotta work what you got.
Yeah. But I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that we did a very good job about kind of just shooting the shit and talking about bad management and management in general. If you guys have not watched The Office, I think Manny and I truly recommend. It's one show that I recommend like everyone watch, and we watched it already twice, and I cannot wait to watch it again. As we wrap up this episode, I wanted to thank you guys once again for just taking the time to hang out with us and like chill with us. I know that we are releasing this episode a little late, but that's okay. The beauty of the food industry is that you are flexible, and that's one thing that I want our podcast to also be, is to be flexible. So you guys will always hear from us on the weekends, whether it's Friday or Saturday. So thanks so much for hanging tight with us and for being loyal and for being here, and we hope you have a great weekend. Babe, you want to sign us off?
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for sharing this hour of your life with us and our beautiful son, who was very excited to be a part of this, clearly. So once again, if you work this weekend, hope you have a great shift, that nothing bad happens to you, and that most of all, and most importantly, you make a shit ton of money.
And that does it, guys. Don't forget to clock out, and see you next week, foodies.